Taoiseach, it's less than 2 weeks to the budget, and there are many issues that need to be addressed. And I want to put it to you, Taoiseach, that one essential is that there would be a realistic response to the Peter Cassell's report into the chronic underfunding of third-level education and the perilous state that our institutes of technology and our universities are in from a funding perspective as we try and prepare the country for the future in terms of attracting investment and producing quality graduates in the years ahead. Core expenditure for each university student is down by 22% since 2011. The pupil-teacher ratio, in terms of the student-lecturer ratio, has declined dramatically from 115 to about close to 120, and that compares to an average of 1 to 14 across the OECD. Our universities are declining in terms of world university rankings. Some of our institutes of technology are very much close if you use the term trading insolvently, and some of them are very dire straits financially and will need funding to keep them above that level. There's been little or no capital investment in our third-level institutes for quite some time, and in a recent letter to you, signed by all the university presidents, they draw attention to the urgency of about 30 to 40 million on basic health and safety equipment in our universities. Apart from that, we have clearly more medium-term capital investment projects that will be required in both the institutes and in the universities. Now, investment in education is central to our economic future. It underpins and is the key differentiator between us and other countries who want to both attract inward investment and develop our own companies who produce our own world-class products and solutions for the world at large. Now, in the Cassell's report, there are three clear options, Taoiseach, and all options include a significant element of state funding. The first one being almost completely state-funded, option 2 being state funding with the existing student contribution remaining and a contribution from employers through the PRSI and the National Training Fund, and thirdly, state funding along with a student loan system and deferred payment of fees. And my own personal view would be that option 2 offers a lot of immediate opportunity to respond. So I'm going to put it to you, Taoiseach, very simply. This can't be kicked down the road. This is something that we must face up to in this budget, because over 600 million is sought by the universities, about 120 and the institutes over the next 5 years. It is imperative that we make a realistic response to that in this budget, to the order of 100 million plus to cover both strata at third level. And I would appreciate if you could indicate whether you endorse the Cassell's report and agree with it, and whether the government is prepared to respond in a realistic way to it in the forthcoming budget.
Thank you very much, Taoiseach.
Well, I think it's important to distinguish between two things here, Deputy Martin. One is the requirement for short-term funding in respect of the third-level sector, and the other is in respect of the Cassell's report, which deals with the medium-term future of third-level funding and the institutions. I think everybody can agree that the impact made by Irish students over the years has been quite extraordinary in many cases. I think everybody can agree that something needs to be done about this. I think everybody can agree that you can't leave it by doing nothing. It seems as if the disagreement is where the money should come from. And that's the reason that Minister Bruton has looked in the longer term at this and is anxious to have the views of every member through the Oireachtas Committee. In respect to the budget, which is just a short distance away, the Minister is in discussions with the Minister for Public Expenditure and Reform about shorter-term funding for the issues that you raise in respect of third-level funding for the immediate term. I was in NUIG last night, in Trinity recently, UCD. All of the presidents make the same case. They need big money, and they need it now. Obviously, we don't have an endless pot here, but I do think it's important that in accepting the Cassell's report, that it does point out a number of options, all of which are difficult, but which must be faced up to. And I'd like to engage and have the engagement of all of those involved in the Oireachtas Committee from all parties about a view on this. In much the same way, indeed, as the Minister for Health is attempting to get cross-party consensus and a longer-term view of issues in health that everybody could agree on, and then make decisions in respect of that future. It's not a case of letting this drift, because it can't be let drift. But you raise a very important point. The immediate business is deal with the shorter-term funding, and Minister Bruton is talking to Minister Donoghue about that. The medium to longer term is the subject of the Cassell's report, with 3 options in there, all of which require money. And the issue, of course, is where that's going to come from. I think we need an Oireachtas real discussion about that future, because it's in everybody's interest.
Thank you, Taoiseach. Deputy Martin.
Taoiseach, I think first point I would make is that arresting the decline in our third level sector cannot await the deliberations of an Oireachtas committee over the medium term. Just cannot await that. By all means, there are detailed issues that the Oireachtas committee will get involved in. But if you look at all options involve substantial exchequer funding of our third level sector. And the bottom line is there has to be a response in this budget. Otherwise, you do kick the can down the road, because you cannot realise the recommendations of Cassell's in terms of the investment levels if you don't meaningfully address it in the forthcoming budget. And it goes to the core of a responsible investment approach to in terms of Irish society. And we had Peter Cassell's addressing us last week, and what was interesting is they're worried about the degree to which working people and people on lower incomes are now finding it going extremely tough to access third level education.
Thank you, Deputy Martin.
And he gave a very graphic illustration where some people in this city, the rate of participation is as low as 7 to 14%, whereas in another part of the city it's 100%. Now, what's happening if we don't move, that gap between access to education will widen among those who've had historically low access rates to third level education, as opposed to those who have 100%.
Thank you, Deputy
Something has to change, Taoiseach. We have an excellent report submitted to us. I think it behoves us to act now in the next 2 to 3 weeks to make a serious provision in the budget in terms of expenditure levels for third level education. Otherwise, we are ignoring the future of this country.
Thank you very much.
Peril.
Taoiseach.
Thanks, Deputy. Well, you make a plea especially for funding for third level, and you make it on the basis of substantial financing of our third level sector. This is one of a whole range of areas now that are demanding and requiring substantial funding in the forthcoming budget. The money is not there to do that, nor can it be. We've just come through a very difficult period over the last number of years, and what's required now of both the Minister of Finance and the Minister for Public Expenditure is continued prudent management of that economy that can allow it to grow, and over a period deal with the essence of the question that you raised, which is about fairness. Come down to the North Inner City and see the challenge at primary level, where people don't have the opportunity that others have. Look at the question of second level and third level. I agree with you. But that is about fairness in our society, and this cannot and will not be dealt with comprehensively in the forthcoming budget. I am saying to you that Minister Bruton is talking to Minister Donoghue about short-term contribution in respect of the immediacy of a requirement for funding for third level. But we need to talk in the medium to longer term about Cassell's. Everybody can agree, I think, that students should have the best opportunity as young Irish people to make their mark internationally, and why not? But that is going to require very substantial funding, and I think we need to be imaginative about the ways we can do that. But it cannot be dealt with comprehensively in the forthcoming budget. But I do hope that a start can be made. Deputy.
Thank you.